Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Kensington Cross Stitch. I am Deborah, and today is April 18, 2024. It is a Thursday, and you will be very surprised to know that it has been a rainy and gloomy day here in Connecticut. I feel like that is often how I start these videos, but you know what? It was beautiful a couple of days ago, so you take them as you get them, right? But thank you again for joining me for this episode. If you are new, welcome. It is so good to have you, and I hope that you enjoy what you see. And for everybody who is a returning viewer, it is so good to see you again. It is always something I look forward to, filming these and then getting to hear from you in the comments. So I look forward to that every time. So I don't know about you, but I have spent the last couple of weeks adulting. Like, there's just been a lot of adulting going on. I actually took a day off last week, and it was just to take care of all of the stuff around the house that you're like, I need to get this done, and it needs to happen during business hours, and when is that going to happen unless I actually take some time off? So I used a vacation day to be an adult. It was super exciting. Today was, if you remember from a couple of videos, there's some plumbing here at the house that we needed to take care of. So today there were many plumbers and lots of noise and a jackhammer and all kinds of things. And yeah, that was a good time as I was sitting through my work meetings going like, sorry, y'all. The cats got, unfortunately, shut up in one of the bedrooms because I figured that was the best place for them to be. So they were very happy to be released after that. And unfortunately, the guys are all having to come back again tomorrow because the person who was supposed to do the last stage of the project injured himself as they were getting ready to head on over. So they're coming back tomorrow to do the last of it. But then it'll be done. It's all over except the, paying for it. But anyway, so that's been just side of things going on recently. I have a standing dinner with on Tuesday nights, and I called them on this week, and I was like, can we move this to Wednesday? I said, I am so tired, my face hurts. So it's just been that time of year. But unlike last video, I actually do have stitching to show you. So that is exciting, and that's really good because despite how busy it is and despite having to be an adult and do all of these other things, we always have stitching, and it was nice to get back to it after a little bit of a break. So I do have some stitching to show you. We are going to do a giveaway later in the episode. I'm going to show you a little bit of crochet. I have some book talk, and I have some Legos. I had a number of people who really wanted to see the Lego Orient Express, so I will show that right at the end of the video. So lots of different stuff to talk about today. So I hope you enjoyed, and here we go. So the first project that I want to show you is actually something that you have not seen at all. I don't think I have even talked about it on this episode, on this channel, but it is a start and a finish, and it was something that I worked on the other day, really in commemoration of Sarah and Sally, who are Sew Me Sarah and Flossie Sews and Grows. Could I mess up your channels more? Sarah of Sew Me Sarah and Sally of Flossie Sews and Grows, who are two UK stitchers who are celebrating their 50th birthday this year together, and they have tasked each other with the very ambitious project of 50 starts in this year to commemorate their birthday. So kudos to them. And I have really been enjoying watching their videos this year, seeing the projects that they're working on. Some of them are the same, some of them are different. And they've been taking prompts from people about what to do. And so there was one that Sarah was working on this week. She mentioned that she was going to be working on, and it's one that's been on my queue as well. So I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to work on this project. And I knew it was going to be a very quick stitch, so I started it and finished it. And as I'm waving these around, these are the floss that I used. So I have a color and cotton hay bale, and then also a color and cotton abyss. So those were the two colors that I used for my stitching. And this is a French pattern by Marie-Thérèse Saint-Aubin, and I will put the information about this pattern down in the description box. It is a freebie pattern, and it's one that Sarah and I have talked about in the past. So Sarah, this one is for you. And here is my project. And as you can see, it's just this beautiful outline of an umbrella and then some French lettering. And this is stitched on a 32 count Atomic Ranch Fabrics piece, and I believe that this is in the color Soft Fur. And I think it is just absolutely lovely. This is very much in her style. Many of her patterns are kind of this very delicate, often have this lettering behind it. And the moment I saw it, I was like, that is absolutely something that I need to stitch someday. So it was wonderful to have the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, I can't show you a photo of it. There aren't very good photos of it online, but it is originally stitched on a very neutral fabric. And then the main color for the umbrella is called for in a DMC, kind of a dark blue. And then the lettering is kind of in this tan color. And so I just went with a green. Since I decided to go with this fabric, I thought I wanted to go with a floss that kind of blended in with the fabric as opposed to the floss for the umbrella that blended in with the fabric, as opposed to lettering the fabric. Goodness, can you tell it's the end of a workday? Rather than having the lettering kind of blending in with the fabric. So I think it's really lovely. There were a couple of extra rows of lettering up here at the top, which is why I have a little bit of extra fabric there. In the end, I decided to not stitch those couple of rows because it would have made this more of a square pattern versus this rectangle. And my guess is I'll find something to finish it on. I have no idea how I'm going to finish this, but I think I will probably have something that I can finish it on that's rectangular easier than I could with a square piece, but really lovely piece. So again, something that I stitched very quickly. The pattern called for, I'm pretty sure the pattern actually called for over one stitching rather than half stitches as I did in a couple of places, but I started to do the pattern that day and I was just like, you know what? I'm just not in the mood for over one stitching today. So I think it works just as well. So that is Il Pleut by Saint-Auban. And I will put the information about where you can get a copy of that pattern yourself down in the description box. So the next project that I have to show you is also a new start. And this is continuing on with a series that I worked on a couple of videos ago. And this is from the Gather Round series by Hands On Design. And this is the summer series, and you may be recognizing it if you haven't seen it before. Kathy Hopperman just started releasing this as kind of, I think, a quarterly series. The first one came out at Market, and this was originally produced as part of a club last year, which is how I got it, but this will be a pattern that she'll be releasing in the near future for everyone else as well. And the way that I am stitching it is I am stitching just the quilting and then the cabin pieces from each series. So really beautiful colors. Again, this one is using all DMC, and some of the colors overlap from the series. Some of them are new each season, but really lovely palette. And then here is my extremely impressive start. There we go. I just thought it would be a really fun thing to start on that quilt. Little bit of that fence there. These are very quick stitches, so not something that will take me all that long. I figure it was a good opportunity to work on something that is heading us into summer stitching, but still can feel very much like spring stitching, and something that will finish very, very quickly. So that was Gather Butterflies by Hands On Design. And then the next piece that I have to show you is from my own Sal, which is the A Year of ABC's Sal, which is the Little House Needleworks series. And we are doing this at a very sedate pace, working through all 4 patterns in this ABC series and stitching them just a little bit ahead of time so that by the time we are done with them, you have time to fully finish it and have it up on display. So we're working on summer at this point. And this was the piece that when I showed it to you last, I had barely done anything on it, and then I wound up in my period of not stitching at all, getting very behind. So fortunately, I caught up again. So here are the colors that we are using. These are similar to the called for, although I was realizing that I think in particular, this red was much more of a kind of a cherry red than the couple of other examples I have seen from other stitchers is it's a little bit subtler. It's a little more of a pink red. So mine is definitely a very bright thing. And one of the things that I have really enjoyed seeing from the other stitchers is pretty much everyone else has been changing their colors to some degree because it was felt like they weren't quite summer colors. They were kind of giving off more fall vibes. And so everybody was thinking differently about how to do their colors. And so it was really fun to just compare. When I was at the Connecticut Stitching Circle the other day, a couple weeks ago, we were comparing our two pieces, and it was really fun to see them next to each other, and just the way that just color changes can change a palette, change the project that you're working on. So all of which is to say, I am caught up for this monthly piece. And I think that when I showed this to you last, all I had was the word apples, I think the B and that row of apples, and that was all I had done. But at this point, I have finished all of my February stitching, and I have finished all of my March stitching. And so we are actually slightly ahead of schedule because I've done the S, which is actually our next piece. But I had a little bit of floss lesson. I was like, I'm not going to just not finish this because it doesn't technically go here. So you'll see that I did the house, which fits into this month's section, but I did not do all of the grass and the hill, which will be part of our April selection. So as we get into April, I will be finishing up this pattern, and then I'll be able to show it to you fully finished. So that is Summer ABCs by Little House Needleworks. And despite the fact that this really does not say summer to me, the color palette does not say summer to me at all, I really love this piece. I think it is just beautiful. I do like the way that the colors go together, even if they're not the traditional summer colors. And this is an XG Design 32 count piece of fabric. I think this is in Grandpa's sleeve. I really love the modeling on that. So that was the stitching that I have gotten done in the last couple of weeks. I will briefly also show you the project bag that I'm using right now. I don't remember the name of this pattern. It's on Etsy. If anybody wants it, I can pull it up. But this was one of the very first project bags I made for myself, and I used kind of the wrong interfacing, and so it's extremely floppy, but I really love it. And I really like being able to showcase this piece about the London Underground. And how can you go wrong with that fabric? That was a piece of fabric I picked up years ago, and I used it for a project for somebody. I had this little scrap left, and I was like, this is perfect. So that project bag also just makes me really happy. So that was the stitching that I have done over the last couple of weeks. It was good to get back to it. I still am a little bit behind on my advent calendar piece, but we'll get there. We'll get there. And I figure I got back to stitching. I enjoyed it. I have progress. What more do I need to do? So that was the stitching that I had to show you this time. I do have a couple of giveaways that I am going to do for you at this point. So one of them is courtesy of another member of the Connecticut Stitching Circle group. So thank you very much for donating this. It is an absolutely adorable chart. So this is a Busilla kit called Afternoon Nap. And look at that cat. His little face. Oh, he's so cute. Just precious. So this is a full kit. Comes with Ada as well as all of the floss that you need. And I said, it's really cute. She first asked if I wanted it. And I said, it is adorable, but I am going to be realistic with myself, which is this is full coverage. And as she knew, that is sort of not necessarily my thing. So I was like, you know what? We agreed we would do a giveaway. So if you would be interested in receiving this pattern, please use the numeral 1, like the number 1 in your comment. That's all you have to do. And then you also need to complete my Pen Pals form, which is down in the box below. You'll also see that, and that will just collect your information. And that way I will have it in advance and can get that out in the mail to you. So in order to collect your address, you do need to be 18. Please don't use any of the words like free or giveaway or win, anything like that, because we don't want the trolls to find us. But other than that, please just use the numeral 1, and I am willing to ship worldwide. So if this is a pattern you're interested in, there you go. And then the second pattern that I am going to be giving away is one that I recently received from the Silver Needle. And this is part of their Little Help from Our Friends Stitching Circle. And this is a semi-random, semi-regular club that I am part of. It is not the full kit. It is just the pattern. But this is a Scarlet House piece that was produced as an exclusive for this club. I assume it will be released for others in the near future, but so far as I know, this is still an exclusive pattern through this club. And as you can see, it says flowers and friendship, you reap, you wait, you sow, till they blossom and they grow. And I would be, again, happy to send this worldwide. And if you're interested in this one, please use the numeral 2 in your comment. You're welcome to enter for both of them, but I will only send one if if the random comment picker happens to pull you for both of them, I will pull a second winner. So good luck on that, and I hope that you enjoy. The next thing that I want to show you is a couple of crochet pieces that I worked on. These are not recent finishes in any way. These are actually pieces that I finished a couple of years ago. As my interest in cross-stitch has resumed, my interest in use of crochet has waned, but all of these things will come and go as time goes on. And I made a lot of scarves. There was a time in my life when I made a lot of scarves just because I enjoy wearing them. And I tend to, as you'll see, do very simple patterns, in part because I do this because I want something mindless that I can do while I'm watching TV or anything like that. And so I tend to go with very repetitive patterns while focusing on so that you can showcase a very pretty yarn. And I hadn't been wearing them in a while, and I pulled them out of my trunk recently, and the weather right now has been you don't need a jacket, but you want something else. And so I had pulled out my scarves, and so I thought they were out. Why not show it to you? I will put the pattern names down in the description box if it's something that you're interested in. But two pieces that I enjoy. I just had renewed my love of them recently, and I thought I would share them with you before I head on. So this is one that is a cowl, as you can see, and it is just using two yarns, and I had just gotten them from the same yarn dyer, and it's a very simple shell stitch, and you just stitch one in one color, you chain on with one color, you go to the second color, and then swap. And then you can wear it either way, depending on what you would like. But I think that one is just a really beautiful color, sets of yarn colors that you can use and you can wear in whatever way that you like. So, and again, once you get going, you just go until you run out of yarn, basically, and you can't go wrong with a pattern like that. So that is one that I really like. I've made that pattern multiple times, just using different yarns. And then I also really enjoy gradient yarns, so going from one color to another color. And so this is a pattern that I have, and it's one of those very long, kind of skinny scarves that just continues on until it grows and grows, and you get to the other side. So it's kind of a triangular scarf. And then you just kind of wrap it around your neck multiple times and do whatever these are great because they have so many different options. But again, the purpose is really showcasing a lot of different color yarns. And so that one is one that I think I've actually done this pattern twice now as well, because again, it's really about showcasing the yarn and the color changes and that. And then again, it's just a very simple stitch there as well. So another piece that I have enjoyed. So I just thought, I had them out, why not show it to you? So that was just a little bit of my crochet. I have noticed recently that there have been a couple of moments when I've thought, I could crochet something. I could pull out some crochet. Maybe I should look at my yarn. So we may be seeing a little bit of a return of interest to that hobby. We'll see. But I could never forget cross stitch. The next thing that I want to show you is some book talk. So at this point, if you were joining us for the crafty kind of stuff, we've covered the cross stitch, we've covered the crochet, and I'm going to head into book talk and then talk about Legos just a little bit, and then we'll close out for the day. So if that was all you were here for, thank you. It was so good to have you. And if you're here for the long haul, here we go. So the book that I wanted to talk about is one that I have read many, many times, and that is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I've talked in a previous video about how that is one of my favorite novels. And I hadn't read it in a couple of years, and I had picked up a specific version of it, actually maybe a year or so ago. Started it, got distracted, and I needed to come back to it. And I was reminded of it recently. And so I wanted to show it to you because it's a really neat version of the book. And as you can see, it's quite large. It's got this massive spine. And I do have to say, as a reading experience, this isn't really the book that you want to read. I did read through it, but it was a little bit frustrating just because it's kind of big and awkward. But what is really cool about this is the curator, Barbara Heller, has produced a couple of these books at this point. And what she does is she takes letters and documents that are mentioned in the books, and she recreates them and then places them inside of the book. So as you're reading the novel, you can actually pull out that object and experience it as if you were one of the characters, as if this was something that the character was actually seeing, and you experience it like they were along the way. So if you're familiar with Persuasion, yes, the whole purpose of this one is to have Captain Wentworth's letter, and it's in there, and I will not spoil it for you, but obviously this is about Captain Wentworth's letter. But there are a lot of other really neat things in here. So, for example, again, the very first thing that you see is the baronetcy, which is what Anne's father is constantly referring to, and so it's actually kind of the history of the family. And it talks about, the book basically starts with this man, Sir Walter Elliot, and how basically this is his favorite book, and it's about his family history, and he just reads constantly about himself and his family. And so it's the recreation of that, of what he would be reading if this is what he is seeing. So that is kind of how the book starts. And then there are also a few other things. There is a map of the city of Bath. When I was in England, one of the times I went down to Bath for the day, and it was the only time in the time that I lived there that anyone ever corrected my pronunciation of my American accent. I was talking with the ticket seller, and I said I would like a return ticket to Bath, and he's like, to Bath? And I said, yes, I would like a ticket to Bath. And then he sold me the ticket. So I always think of that. But there are other things in this book as well, and you'll see that they're kind of in these little sleeves. So another letter, for example, that Anne receives from her sister Mary, and etc. So I won't spoil everything, but it's really fun to go through these, particularly if you're already familiar with the book and you know what some of those documents are and how meaningful they are and how they kind of influence the story. It's really neat to be able to go through them. And for example, this letter you can pull out and you can open up. It is folded in the way that letters used to be folded, so that the piece of paper, you basically would fold up a piece of paper in a particular way so that you could have the letter and the envelope all together, as I drop something, but really neat. And each character has their own handwriting, and you can see that there are mistakes in it, purposefully made mistakes and things that anybody who was handwriting something would do. So it's a really fun, tangible way to experience a book. And I enjoyed it. So it was fun to both revisit the story, but also see it in this different light. And at this point, she has produced 3 of these books, and one more is coming out. There is Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, Persuasion, and then the one that is coming out sometime later this year is Anne of Green Gables. So if that's of interest, that is Persuasion, and it's curated by Barbara Heller. All right, so that is the book that I wanted to show you this time. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is, the other thing I was going to talk about is the reason that I picked this book up is because I was in the mood to watch a movie, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago at this point, and I was like, I haven't watched Persuasion in a really long time. I should do that. And so I pulled out what is my favorite version of the Persuasion. And I watched that, and that's what led me to the book. And then since I had watched it, I was like, well, I haven't watched the other versions of Persuasion in a while, and I should watch those and just refresh myself of why this one is my favorite and why I tend to prefer it over the others. So I did that. So in the last 2 weeks at this point, I have both read Persuasion and I have watched 3 versions of Persuasion. I have not watched the most recent version of it, which is from 2022. I believe that that's the case, in large part because I haven't heard a single good thing about it. But if you happen to have watched that version and love it, let me know. If you want to convince me why I should watch that version of Persuasion, I'm happy to listen. But if not, I can tell you about the other 3 versions of it and why I prefer the one that I watch. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect. But I do, after all, have a preference. So there is a version from the 1970s, and it's about 3 hours long, and that is actually the one that I prefer to watch. The acting is a little bit suspect in a few cases, but the reason that I enjoy that one in particular is because it is the most complete version. It's the longest adaptation, and therefore it is also the most faithful of the, or not actually necessarily, but in this case, it is both the longest and the most complete and the most faithful of the adaptations that I find. So if you're really just wanting to watch a story that you love be translated onto the screen, that's what this version is. And that's the one that I tend to watch most frequently. But there are 2 other versions. There's one from 1995, and then there's also a version from 2007. And both of those are about 90 minutes long. One was kind of produced as a theatrical release. One was a TV movie. And the 1995 version, the benefit of that one is that is the one with the best acting. Like, it's got Kieran Hines, it's got Amanda Root, it's got Simon Russell Beale, it's got just a fantastic cast. And so if you're wanting to watch a really well acted version of Persuasion, and interestingly enough, they also light a lot of the scenes simply by candlelight. And so it's often darker than you might expect because it doesn't have all of the vivid lighting that you would see in a movie adaptation, but it's much more of what you would have actually experienced at that time. So if you're wanting a really good acted version of it, 1995 version, but I will say, having watched it again, like, the second half of the movie in particular increasingly goes like away from the original text, in ways that you're like, but why did you have to do that? So it starts out really, really well, but as you go along, the more it gets less and less like the actual book, which gets a little bit frustrating sometimes. And then there is the 2007 version, which also has a bunch of actors that I enjoy. It has Rupert Henry Jones, it has Anthony Head, it a bunch of different people, and you're like, hey, these are all actors I enjoy, and I do like that version. The interesting thing about this one is it's about a 90-minute adaptation, but it takes the conversations, it takes the events, and actually puts them in a lot of different order. Not in a like intentionally disjointed way. It's just it's telling the story, but in order to do so in a compressed time frame, it actually changes things up a little bit, and you learn things as needed as opposed to early on that they come back, for example. And so it's I think that it was a very skillfully done adaptation in the sense that it tells the story. It doesn't tell the story necessarily as Jane Austen told the story, but it does tell a complete story in a very short period of time, which I liked a lot. I will say the last 10 minutes of the movie just like completely fall to pieces, unfortunately, but the rest of it isn't bad. The reason that I don't tend to watch that one very much is the cinematography. For whatever reason, the director decided that it was going to be one of those movies in which you're constantly like, you're looking through the eyes of the characters or you're following the characters. And so there's just there is a lot of like shakiness and moving around, and everything feels very unsteady. Maybe it's supposed to be like you're on a ship. I don't know. But as somebody who does not get motion sick or does not get seasick, that movie makes me nauseous. So I think it's a really good one to watch while you're cross stitching, because you're only listening to it. You're not really actually watching the movie. So unfortunately, I feel like none of the adaptations is, it's not like the 1995 Pride and Prejudice where you're just like, everything works. Everything works. There's none of them that are actually like that, but they all have their merits. So I enjoy watching them all from time to time, but if I had to choose, I always go back to the 1970s version. So did you want to know all of that information about Persuasion? Probably not. Did you learn it anyway? You're welcome. Okay, with that, the last thing that I have to talk about is some Legos. And I had a really, really neat experience with Legos recently, which is to say that my parents went up to visit some family that lives in Canada who were in the path of the totality for the eclipse. And as part of that visit, the family members that they were visiting said, "You're really into Legos. Your daughter's really into Legos. We have some very old Lego sets. Would you like them?" So they brought home 2 classic original Lego sets, and my dad and I split them between us. And so I got this little house set, and as you can see, it was produced in Canada, so it is multilingual. It cost $11.99, and my assumption is that that was $11.99 Canadian. And this is very early Lego set, and so there was this one which actually produces a specific product, and then the other one was kind of a building set, so it was miscellaneous pieces that you can build whatever you wanted. And the pieces had gotten a little bit mixed between the two, and so in order to properly assort them, my dad and I put this one together, just to confirm that we had everything. So here we go. And there we go. What is really fun about this one is it's on hinges so that you can open it up and you can see the inside of your piece. I love that original, like, it's got the faucet, those flowers, really fun. And so we really had fun putting this together and seeing kind of the differences between the kits that we are used to versus what was original. I mean, this thing is probably almost as old as I am, and it's still fantastic. The doors open. They're very different than they are today. The doors open. You've got shutters that open, all kinds of things. So it was really fun to just experience this. And I remember kits like this from growing up, and so I got to do that again. So that was the first one that I put together. And we managed to get all of our pieces sorted out and get our trade going on. So, but what was interesting is to compare that with another set that I also put together in the last couple of weeks. And this is a current set. It's just released a couple of months ago. And this is from the Dreams with 3 Z's line. I don't know anything about that line. I think it's a video, like a TV series that Lego produces about themselves, or maybe it's a show. I have no idea. Anyway, I don't know anything about this series, but I like some of their kits, so I made a few of them. And this is the Medieval Town, and this is one of those sets that you can actually put together as one building, or you could have actually assembled this as 3 separate buildings, and at some point in the process you just get to choose which one you want to do. So we have kind of an old apothecary, we've also got an armory, and there is a little bedroom up in the eaves of that house, and then the windmill actually does that. So I just enjoyed this set. I thought it was fun. Also, if you can see in there, you probably can't see it, inside is a pretzel, just saying. The only thing that I did differently is this top piece is actually supposed to be flipped around, but I wanted to be able to spin the windmill on this side of the house, and so I just swapped it. That's why the bedroom basically just faces the outdoors. But anyway, what I really appreciate about, and this was a quick project to work on, but it is so fun to see the two of these in comparison. This is essentially the same idea, just several decades apart, and it shows you the advancement in the ways that Lego have adapted and changed over the years, but even with you're still using the same concept. So I just thought those were two fun pieces that I worked on. Really enjoyed both of those. And then I also, as I mentioned, had a couple people who wanted to see the Lego, the roof just fell off, the Lego Orient Express. So I did film that video. It's quite large, and so you'll see that I wasn't able to bring it up here to film with me. So I will insert that video at the close here. And with that, I think I will wrap up. It is always good to be with you. Hope you enjoy getting to see the Lego Orient Express, and I look forward to, as I close, just as a reminder, the giveaways, if you want the cat piece, it's numeral number 1. If you want the Scarlet House piece, it's numeral number 2, and that will stay open until I film my next video in 2, possibly 3 weeks. But as long as there isn't another video up, it's still available as an opportunity. So with that, enjoy. I hope you have a good couple of next couple of weeks. Enjoy your stitching, and we'll chat again soon. Bye, everybody. Hello everyone. So I wanted to show you the Lego Orient Express set. This is one that I finished in the last couple of weeks, and I've had a couple of questions from people who wanted to see the full set. And you'll notice that this is on my fireplace mantelpiece. It's one of the places where I have enough room to actually display this entire set, because as you can see, it's about 3.5, maybe 3 feet long. So it's quite a large, lengthy set. So this is the full view, and as you can see, we have an engine, tender, and then 2 carriages, as well as minifigs, and underneath you can see that there is a full track as well. So this is the full view of it, and then I'll come in and give you a little bit more detail on this. So as I mentioned, we've got the engine and the tender, and then we also have our little gentleman who is here to shovel the coal in to make sure that the train runs. And this also gives you a close-up of the wheels and the track, and those do run across, so you can actually run this piece back and forth along the track if you want to. And then coming over here, we've got our sleeping carriage, and then we also have the restaurant carriage and our minifigs. I'll zoom in and show you those first. So here we've got our very hardworking porter, and as you can see, he actually has some sweat on his face there, just reflecting that he is working quite hard. And then we also have kind of our waitress here, who is there ready to serve customers in her very fancy clothes. And then we've got a news reporter and a couple of people who are traveling on it, including our very intrepid reporter there, and then the conductor, of course, who's ready to bring everybody on. So those were all created for this particular set. And then behind them, you can see we have the sleeping carriage. And one of the things that's really neat about this set, and it's something that Lego does a lot these days, is you can actually partially disassemble the set so that you can look inside and see the details. So of course, from the windows, we can see some of the details, but let me also show you what is inside. So here is kind of the bathroom in the first class carriage. And you can see we've got a mirror and we've got sinks, some private space there. Moving along, we've got kind of a work area with a desk and a typewriter. And then also the first class bed. And one of the things that I really like about this set is you can see that sticker there, which is reflection. It's a mirror that is a convex reflection of the room itself. So if you look at the details, you actually see the carriage that we have built in the details in the reflection of that mirror. So really cute little detail. And so as you can see, the first class carriage is most of the space. And then over here, we have the second class cabins. We've got bunk beds, somebody there ready to read the news. We can play a little bit of a game. And then we also have a pull-out sink. And that is so neat because that also reflects what you actually see in the Orient Express itself in real life. So in some of the cabins, all you have in the cabin itself is just a pull-out sink that you can use. Whereas if you have one of the first class cabins, for example, you can actually get a bathroom in your carriage itself, in your cabin itself. So just a neat little reflection. And then again, just lots of details, even within these other elements here. Let me put this back. And then we can move on to the restaurant car. And again, you can remove that so you can see. We've got some more stickers here that kind of reflect some artwork. And we built some tables and chairs inside. And then over here we have our bar area and some treats there. So that is the Lego Orient Express. Really fun set to put together, something I'm enjoying. Uh-oh, our porter has fallen down on the job. But anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.